Alrighty, I returned from the scrap metal, and yeah, been down the bottom and heaped up most of the old pallet planks, nearly all of them, and any other bits that were questionable. You can see box thorn there, and left for this stuff here. So this is basically, well, fair bit of the stuff from the yards, but also a lot of the heavier posts you see there, most of them, are actually ones that were pulled out of the fence early on, and my father went and took a bunch down and threw them beside the sheep yards. And there's a lot of other old rubbish and old droppers and crap that were all flung in there from who knows what years back. So I went and sorted my way out through the good stuff and the bad stuff, and all the bad stuff from the box on. The sort of good stuff is going to go on me stack there. Aliens! No, it's just me with the headlamp on. Well, I just been pouring in the desulfating fluid, and I have a terrible habit with those batteries. See, when I first got my solar set up, it was a bloody mess. Great panels, great charge controller, still using the originals in both cases there. And the battery I got was off probably one of the worst shops I've ever dealt with in my life, which would be Battery World in West Fine Street in Geelong. Bastard talked me into getting a marine battery because he had deep cycle there a couple of days prior, but then didn't. And then he handed me one that was used and burnt out, and it had black shit floating around. It was basically a heavily sulfated battery that was a return. And anyway, it didn't take me long to... He told me to top the water up after a month, and when I did, there was black shit floating all through it, and you know, my charge controller told me that I come out there just as the sun was coming up one morning, and it told me that basically I was on the verge of going flat, and I'd only had one light on for 2.5 hours the night before. Lousy 13 watts for 2.5 hours or something like that. I mean, anyways, then I had a shitty Chinese inverter, 88 degrees Fahrenheit, 31.5 degrees Celsius. She'd have real issues at that temperature. And then I thought I'd put it in my room, and then I had trouble with amperage because the lines were too long from the batteries. Anyway, long story short, I sort of almost got scared off dealing with it. So it's a system that, you know, I don't know if you'd say once bitten, twice shy, but I just sort of shy away from fiddling with it and changing it and modifying it all the time in case I turn something to shit, which I'm probably not going to, but after all the grief I had in my early days, I don't like messing with it. But anyway, I probably should have topped the water up a little bit earlier because the electrolyte had actually got a little bit below the plates, not much, about, I don't know, 4 mil, a bit over 1/8 of an inch or something like that, maybe a little more actually, but definitely no more than, well, not even a 1/4 inch, but, you know, no good. Once I looked at it and said, you know, we should do that before long, and I said, oh, we'll do it in the summer because it'd be warm then and it might have evaporated a bit of electrolyte. And then I got to the summer and I thought, no, I'll do it at the end of the summer because we haven't had any real hot days yet, and realistically I should have done it. But anyway, I put the desulfating fluid in, and I also topped it up with water a bit, but for the first 3 or 4 days it actually foams. Quite possibly, particularly with systems that are like forklifts and stuff like that that get a high amperage charge, whereas your solar systems have a lower amperage charge and there's less chance of foaming. But I didn't completely fill it up to the right level with water, but I will do in another 4 days or so, when any foaming may have stopped. Anyway, I also saw someone tonight as I was down there stacking the last of the posts and timber and stuff onto the back of the trailer, and it's somebody who wants to shoot rabbits here, and they will leave me with the rabbits. They're only interested in pulling the trigger, and they will leave me with the meat. So the kitty cats may get a bit of a variety, varied diet, which would probably be good for them, and it'll save me a bit on cat food. So yeah, we are in the process of making a trap to deal with the mother and a few of the kittens that I don't want to keep. And honestly, you can't give away nice friendly kittens. Most of them go to the pound and get gassed. So how the hell am I going to give away ones that bite your finger and put the claws through your shirt and all this sort of stuff? I'm not going to. So I'm keeping the very friendly and quite honestly gluttonous, big guts on the Richie, Tabby, and one of the black ones, the one that caught the mouse. So it's a little bit sort of hiss at you and stuff a little bit. It did today, it did when I picked it up and patted it, but then I started patting the side of its cheek and it didn't bite my finger when I'd done it a couple of days ago. So, you know, it sort of took being patted reasonably well. So I think it's a keeper, but it's definitely good at mice. So, yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to keep that one. And the other one is just friendly. You're like, come on, puss, and it comes running towards me. The fat Tabby. It's pretty good at hoeing into the food and the milk and everything. You see its little guts, it's no surprise. Alrighty, well yesterday we took a few lives and got on with a bit of housework. Done quite a bit of dishes, and I've done just a lot of sitting around, relaxed for once in a while. Last night though, this old biatch wasn't playing ball, and you know, it's been very hot because the pump's been going slow, and all of a sudden it's sped up and slowed down and up and down and up and down, and as you can tell, there's quite a bit of grime on the line. Some of that is outside, like that bit there. I've just been wiping the outside here and still notice that it's quite dirty still all brown. And that's not the actual pipe going brittle because it's been out of the sun, so, you know, what's it going to go yellow from? It's been inside. It's actually dirt in the system. Now, some of that gets in through, well, when I first lived here, I used to pump out of IBCs, and I have a little hole through the wall, and some of that actually works its way into the document tub water inlet hole, because, you know, they were pretty much one slightly above the other, so I could get the big 1-inch hose to go through the wall and then straight in the document tub. And now I've got a 1/2-inch hose, and, well, the hole's far bigger than it needs to be. And the other thing is the overflow on my big water tank does collect a bit of dust when you have, you know, a lot of wind and any dust gets going. It sort of gets a bit of dust inside. And for some reason I think we get a little bit of algae, although it's sort of, it's so dark in there, I don't know how that really happens. But anyways, took a bit of a wrestle to get the thing off. You can see it's all sort of a bit brown there on the end. There's obviously a bit of muck in the water. But I am supposed to, you know, once every 6 months or more often, well, like actually once every 6 months if you got water that contains a lot of limestone, put a bit of this stuff in. And I've never put this in, and I think now would be a good time because I think this pump's about to die, and they reckon it builds up on the aluminium heat exchanger, like on the inner aluminium pipes of the heat exchanger. And yeah, so I'm going to use a bit of calcium lime rust remover. to try and remove all that stuff, because I've never actually done it before, but I know it has to be done because it's in the manual. And I think with all the crap building up on the line there, and I can also see the line that runs to the shower head has a lot of crap building up as well, and I don't even want to know what the heat exchanger would look like inside. Probably the same sort of crap inside it as well. So I'm going to try and, yeah, get it off with a bit of this, but it involves a bit of a circus. That's why I got the pump out, because I wouldn't make the distance to a bucket to feed it a diluted solution of this, and then I'm going to have to actually rig the bucket off the ladder still to get enough length. But you only got to put through about 20 litres or something like that, which is about, well, like 5 gallons or something, 5.5 gallons, and then you should be right. So I'm going to work on that and then continue on with scrap metal. Alrighty, this is the thing here. It's not as much as I thought. It's only 7.5 litres of water, which is like, it's not even 2 gallons. 340 grams of blah blah. Oh, God blimey. Who knows what strength they're using. See, mine comes in flipping mils, doesn't it? Not grams, because it's liquid. Yeah. And then circulate. Or about 20 litres of clean water. This does about 1 gallon a minute when it's running good. So yeah, I could calculate it from there. Yeah. It's 2 remaining kitties. One there you can see next to the electric motor with the blower. And there's a tabby one over there. He's getting better, this one. 2 were laying together the other day, and I was patting the tabby one there, and he was there, and he was a bit cautious of my hand and hissed once or twice, but he still sat in the same spot. I ended up rubbing him on the back a few times as well, and he didn't hiss, so he's getting better. But he's got a purpose. He catches mice, so even if he's a little bit grumpy, it doesn't matter, because well, he should reduce my rat poison usage to 0, hopefully. An old fat ass on the other side there, always very friendly. I was patting it for about 10 minutes straight the other day, didn't bat an eyelid. And it's got a bit of gluttonous eating habits, but at least it's friendly. Oh man. Well, I've got a little setup here. You can probably see that, an old 5-gallon tin, and a couple of bricks on the top, and then another bucket on top of that. And I've gone and got the pump and put it back in. And I had to climb up the side of my frame here and all that, and in against the framework that holds up the sides of the shower to manage to plug the sod back in. Now I'm going to have to pull it back out again and stick it right up in the document tub up there, which you probably can't see, but the lid's sort of cracked off. Like as in lifted off, it's just sitting on the top a little bit. I may actually get the top of that document tub down and wash the damn thing, because it's dirty as hell. I was going to vacuum it, and then I thought, oh, what's the point? I can lift the whole thing out and bring it down here anyway. Yeah, so I got the mix in another bucket and put the little pump in. The lighting, as usual, is complete crap again. I'll just show you anyway. There's the pump sitting in the bucket. And basically ran it through with that. I had to sort of pick the bucket up, because I think I was kinking the hose, actually, because it was sort of starving a bit there until I lifted the bucket up. And I sort of held the other, the bucket up of the CLR, and held the pump, so I'd got the whole lot out, or if you will, close to anyway. And then I turned it off, and it bloody drained back through, didn't it? Because drained back out of the heat exchanger, back down the line. And then I put another bucket in full of clean water, and I've been topping that up the whole time with the kettle, and I was using the stopwatch on this. You're supposed to run it for 4 minutes, so I was using the stopwatch on my phone to wait for 4 minutes. And we should be pretty right. So there's the fill hose that I've also taken out of the lid, which you've got to do to get the flipping lid off. So anyway, I might have to do a little dance around and rehook all this up. This has been a sod last night. The flipping thing was going up and down and up and down. Now it seems to be running all right. So I may even try and empty the water out of the whole lot of that too, or try and use another little trick to... There's flipping muck in the bottom of it. It's been building up over the last couple of years, so I might try and empty all that out. And I can probably actually, I've got siphon hoses, I can probably siphon that its own overflow straight onto the ground. I've actually got a little, can't see it again, a gap in between. The concrete here is actually two pieces. There's one side where all the stand is, and there's another side where the shower base is, and there's a gap between the two. And so if there's any overflow issues or whatever, then it just actually goes out between the gap and goes out the back. And this is also a nice gap for mice to get through, but anyway, we've got kitty cats now, so yeah. So I don't really recommend these things. I mean, they're they're a lot of bullshit. They're just, they had to do everything to meet the Californian laws, which made them exceedingly complex, and then they went exceedingly cheapskate and charge very high prices. Like if you go and get one of these little pumps here, you know, they may cost you $20 over here, they may cost you $10 in the US for a 12 volt one. And you know what these little 6 volt ones cost, which only put out half the water that the 12 volt ones do? $60. And I've actually got a brand new one still in the box that I may go ahead and use if this one does finally croak it. I was going to change it today, but no, it seems to be running pretty well at the moment, so I'll stick with that. And yeah, I don't know how much scrap metal I'm going to get done today, but some things need maintenance, and this was one of them. Okay, I'm going to have to use the crap quality phone because at least it's got a flash on it. There's this siphon hose. I have been up on top of all this gear, up in the document tub. Those of you who never knew, it's all actually set in to basically sand and cement mix, and then I got hold of that and sort of shook it back and forwards basically to rub it down. And I have actually taken this out initially when I was building it, and there's a perfect imprint at the bottom on, well, in the concrete, all the sand and cement mix. And that means it sits in very neatly and doesn't warp any of the bottom because it's basically bedded in, which is much the same way that they actually put baths in houses. So anyways, aside from that, she got a little bit of a belly out there, but then the lid also clips over hard as well. This is 189.7 litres, I think. It's close to 44 US gallons, not too far off. I don't know if this is... I basically siphoned it out. It took like, oh God, blimey, more than 15 minutes. In some of the siphoning, I sucked out some of the brown crap, and there's still a leaf there, but I've got the brown stuff at the front, but not at the back, so, oh, you can see it now. That's just, who knows what, probably leaf litter, maybe a bit of dust, and it's sort of in the back half, and I'm going to try and sponge that out. And I notice the water sort of flows to the front a little bit, so that's going to be good because I can probably put like a little watering can or whatever and try and wash it from the back to the front. And yeah, there's also on a little bit of a ledge there and it gets built up on there. So I'm going to wipe all this clean. I've already got the lid out. I sprayed water on the top, but I actually need to give it a rub with a bit of a sponge or something to get the crap off the top. Because that's a little gap there that I used to have the water pipe coming through from the submersible pump in the IBCs, and I had a bunch of IBCs lined up. Oh, it was like near the plum tree basically, and it would come in and the pipe actually had a hose clamp around this and around the pipe to enable it to come through the correct hole in the lid of the document tub here. And there's my glorious overflow. Yeah, anyway, I better have some lunch and then I'll get to wiping all this out. Okay, so we've got this done really very nicely. There's a little bit still sort of ingrained on the walls. There's not much, and I didn't quite get to the very end there, as you can see. I couldn't reach that far. What I ended up doing is basically using a sponge to suck out the remains, and then I thought, I'm not going to be able to get far enough and get right up the end, so I got bathroom towel, and this thing here, I've got all these blooming broom handles with worn out brooms, hose, who knows what on the end. This one's got the bracket for where it hooks up to like a wooden broom head, and you just like screw it in. So I used this and the towel there to be able to rub all the back out. And it's come out really quite good. And it's just a little bit of leaf muck right at the very end there. And as I said, those two ledges on the very end there. Aside from that, like, it's clean enough to eat off. I've got all the little bits and pieces of leaf muck out of the front here. And, well, now I'm going to have to go get the lid, which I've also cleaned, hook it back on, try and get the water pump, which I think is dangling. There's dangling down there. And re-thread the whole lot up through. And, yeah, fill her up with water and fire her up. Okay, so the tank's refilling. It's a bit of a circus to get in the back of all that, because out there, you see the lead for it there, is that semi-flexible 20-watt solar panel. And in behind all that, I've got a big blooming tractor battery and charge controller, and I've got to climb through all this stuff and, you know, not stand on the battery and then climb up through the back to put all this stuff back in. And of course I've got a bit of wood that holds the back of the Coleman so it doesn't slide off, and then that's in the way where the blooming connections go in and whatnot. But yeah, got to get to and clean all that crap out of there too. A lot of that was what come off the lid initially when I brought the lid down. I sort of gave it a bit of a tap on the tower rail there and the bathroom curtain rail, and she all blooming poured stuff out. So anyway, that's a big heap of maintenance that for a hot water system I'm probably not going to use for a great deal longer. I'll tell you what, the way it was going last night, I thought the blooming pump was going to blow up good and proper. So I cleaned out the mesh filter on it, and of course cleaned all the muck out of the tank, and now we should be a lot better off, and even the heat exchanger and everything has been cleaned now in the process. So yeah, now I can finally get on to scrap metal. Actually, I've got to do a bit of washing too. The friggin' kitten pissed on me bloody shirt, so I've got to wash that first. There we go, people. Another load. This will hopefully be my last load before winter. I said at one point there that I don't think I'm going to have any more scrap metal, and this is load number 6 since then. So hopefully this is the last load. I mean, it's the last amount of decent sized stuff I've got. When we burn the box saws out, there'll be a lot of small stuff. And see it now, the grey, you probably can't see the green skyline there. There's a stack of brown beside the back of that. That's another bonfire heap. There's a few mattresses under there that basically were burnt ages ago, but then the grass grew up through them, so I'll use those essentially as netting to hold down all the small pieces that come out from under the box thorns, because everything under the box thorns is only rather small little bits. And we've got a few other bits and pieces to do and fix up and muck around with, so there's going to be a few other random scrap ones. But yeah, we'll see how it all goes as time goes on. Guess what's back in fashion? Back from the 70s. I've still got a bunch of these under a box thorn, actually. I'll stack my uncle got. Just dumped them under a box thorn. Never saw the thing come back though.